The Old Testament priesthood points ahead to Jesus Christ and finds its fulfillment in him. The priests of the Old Testament typically began functioning as priests when they were 30 years old, and they could not have any sort of physical ailment, defect, or blemish. If they did, they were disqualified from serving. A priest served by being an intercessor or a go-between, somebody who would bridge the gap between God and humans. They would go into the presence of God on behalf of humans, and they did this through the sacrificial system. They would offer animals as sacrifices, shed their blood, and the blood of the animal would cover their sins and the sins of the people so that God could dwell with his people. The priest, of course, foreshadowed Jesus Christ. Jesus began his ministry around 30 years old. He had no blemish, no defect, no sin, and he functions as our go-between. He goes into the presence of God on behalf of us and brings us to God, not through the sacrificial system or through the blood of animals, but through his blood shed on the cross once and for all. There's a mysterious Old Testament priest named Melchizedek, and we find him in Genesis chapter 14, where he greets and blesses Abraham. Now, what makes this priest unusual is that he is both priest and king. He's got these two offices, which people typically did not have. Jesus was a priest and a king, and we could also add a third office. He was also a prophet. Melchizedek was also the king of Salem. Now, Salem translates as peace, so you could call Melchizedek the king of peace. And of course, this is a title that fits Jesus. One of Jesus's messianic titles was Prince of Peace. The name Melchizedek means king of righteousness. And once again, this is a title that is very appropriate for Jesus. Jesus is our righteousness. He was righteous. A messianic title for Jesus was the Lord, our righteousness. The city of Salem would become known as the city of Jerusalem. This was where Melchizedek reigned, and this is also where Jesus would establish his kingdom, in the city of Jerusalem. When Melchizedek met Abraham, he brought out bread and wine, and this, of course, makes us think about the time where Jesus brings out bread and wine and institutes the Lord's Supper for his disciples. One of the things that makes Melchizedek unique is we're not given any sort of lineage or genealogy. It's as if Melchizedek had no parents. This is unusual for important people in the Bible. Usually you find out who their parents or their tribe is. Melchizedek, we don't have any of that. It's as if he had no beginning. And the biblical authors pick up on this. In the book of Hebrews, it describes Jesus like Melchizedek, who had no beginning. Of course, because Jesus is the Son of God. Melchizedek's priesthood is also pictured as being superior to the priesthood of the Old Testament because it predates it. And Abraham also gave Melchizedek 10% of everything that he had. He gave this huge offering to Melchizedek, indicating that Melchizedek was very important and superior to Abraham. Jesus also indicated that he was superior to Abraham, even though he was descended from Abraham. He said once, before Abraham was born, I am. Jesus is our royal priest king. Through his righteousness, through his blood, he bridges the gap between us and God the Father so that we can dwell with God forever. I hope you liked this video. I hope that you found it informative. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. God bless.